Hello, welcome to the channel and thanks for joining me. Today we've got something a little bit different, and I say different for a couple of reasons. One, the item we're looking at is relatively new compared to a lot of the things I feature on the channel, and secondly, it's actually a viewer's unit, and I don't normally work on or repair viewers units for the channel. In fact, this is the first one I will have featured, but more about that in a moment. So what is it though? It's a JVC RC-N5. It's a radio cassette recorder, dates from around 1990, and as you can see, fairly simple small little unit, not a boombox, just a portable radio cassette recorder. You can see the handle is very integrated into this. It serves a couple of functions actually, which I'll show you in a moment. But first I'll give you a quick whistle stop tour of the general unit, then I'll give you a bit of a quick history about how I've come to sort of work on this and the specifics that we'll be looking at today. So as I say, JVC RC-N5. On this side here we've got a radio display dial, but the main features, if you like, are on the reverse. So you've got the volume slider on there, you've also got a master tone slide as well, and you've got a simple switch which flicks from tape to radio. You've got a microphone input jack and a small mini jack there for your headphone out as well. On this side we've got the power in, so you've got your mains power in. You can also use a DC adapter, and on the underside as well you've got access to put batteries in. Now, being a small portable unit and quite low energy consumption, it doesn't need the great big D or even the C cells that a lot of the radio cassettes from the 1980s would have had. This one actually runs from 6 AA batteries, so it makes it more economical to run, cheaper on batteries, and of course it weighs less as well, so it actually makes it portable. So how did I come by this unit then? Well, I had an email from a chap named Jack, who he said he loves watching the channel, so thank you very much, Jack, that's brilliant. He's got an old radio cassette recorder and he hadn't seen me repair any viewers items before and didn't know if that was something I'd be able to do for him. And by and large I don't. These videos do take a long time to prepare, and it's not so much that as well, it's the risk of sort of causing further damage to somebody else's unit, and of course finding time to fit in to repair something small and not terribly prestigious, if I can put that politely. There's more risk of breaking stuff and sometimes more trouble than it's worth, and so I tend to sort of stick to things that I've got total control over, and if I break them then that's kind of going to be my own problem. However, I did have this message, as I say, from Jack, and he did say that he hadn't seen me repair anybody else's work. Would it be possible perhaps to at least take a look? The worst I can do is say no. And he says that basically it was his late father's, and he'd bought it in the late 80s, maybe early 90s, until his death a year ago. I'm just paraphrasing here. Overall, it's running well, but the volume slider is quite dodgy, and the cassette playback seems a tiny bit slow too. Connected to the mains, not batteries, if that changes anything. Totally understand if this is beyond the scope of your work and the channel, but thought the worst I could hear is no. Well, Jack, I'm pleased to say that actually I've said yes. Now, he knows that already because, to be fair to Jack, bless him, I've been sat on this for a couple of months now, if not longer, trying to schedule it in, obviously over Christmas and New Year, and we've had a lot of storms here and a lot of stuff going on, so now's the chance to sit down and actually go through it. And what can I tell you then? So this specific one that he's sent over, it's not in the best condition, it's not in the worst condition. As he says, it was his late father's and he used it for decorating, and it was his general sort of companion around the place while he was doing work and what have you. So it's seen some action, it's seen some, you know, a little bit of abuse and what have you. Now, the first thing I noticed before I do anything at all is it does rattle. In fact, I can see some bits of plastic are actually falling out as I do this. So I don't know if it was always like that or whether that happened in transit, but we'll take a look. And also, it's supposed to be fully closed up. And you may notice at the moment that there's a bit of a gap here. And that's because something's obviously in its way. I'm not going to try and force it. So one thing we need to be mindful of is there is a switch on the side here, and this is your radio band selector switch, and you've got FM, medium wave and long wave, and your tuning dial on the side. But the problem is this switch here is extremely fragile, and the method that this is mounted to the internal switch is basically irreparable if you damage it. And also when you separate the parts out of this, there's a very high chance that you will actually break it. It's not designed really to be serviced that often. Also, the cassette mech itself is extremely fragile to get to, just involving some plastic snapping parts and what have you. So we'll get to that in a moment. But anyway, so here's the pièce de résistance, as it were, and what would be, there we go. Like I say, it needs some work. So there we go. Now it's become an extended radio cassette, and there is the cassette player just in the middle there. And you can see this unit's got a lot of paint on it, a lot of paint splashes and splodges, which may be holding it up a little bit, but that feels like it's a mechanical issue inside that's stopping that. So let's just be careful with it. So here we've got pause, stop, eject, fast forward, rewind, play and record. And there's a nice little slow eject there. And then we've also got stereo, and watch this now. Standard stereo or the biphonic range there, and your beat cut switch. So if you wanted to put the biphonic on, it's there, but you've got to turn it back around to press play. But then if you want to change the volume, you've now got to turn it around again to set the volume. So I never quite know with these units which is the front and which is the back, because to do anything with the tape is on this side, but to actually change the volume or the tone or the function switch is on the back. Then you select radio on the back, but then the waveband selector switch is on the side. It's really not terribly well thought out, in my humble opinion, but who am I? We're just here to see if we can fix it. So also an issue with this is that Jack's dad's obviously put a screw in the aerial at some point. The tip's long since gone, and he's been using that to extend the aerial, which again works fine and does the job, but it's not ideal. Now, I did say to Jack, how far do you want me to go with this? And we kind of agreed that it'd be quite nice just to make sure it's up and running and clean it up a little bit, but I wanted to leave a bit of patina to remind him of his dad. So I think what I'm going to do, the plan for today is we'll strip it down, take a look inside, we'll replace the cassette belts if we can get in there, see if we can get it sliding properly. I'll clean the battery contacts because I noticed that they're a bit corroded as well, and see if we can get out whatever's rattling around inside, and maybe replace the aerial as well. So a few little jobs to do, and I've been whittering on a bit, but like I say, I've been waiting to do this for quite a long time. So let's see if we can get it fixed, shall we? So I'm just going to move the camera position to our usual overhead, and we'll start stripping it down and taking a look. So here we are then on the Towel of Destiny, and the first thing I'm going to do is plug this in, like so. Alright, I can hear some noise already, which is a good sign. We'll extend this aerial as best we can. Just check that it's on FM, which it is. I'm going to kill the lights a minute, just so we can get some better FM signal. And we'll turn this up, and remember the volume slider is on the back. Oh yeah, it's quite scratchy. Okay, not the best reception from that particular angle, but we know it works, which is good. But we did notice, didn't we, that that volume is pretty rough as well. So we just put that back on again. Function switch there. Yeah, that's pretty bad. It's actually making the channels come in and out as well. So we're actually dropping the channels when we touch it. So that is really dirty. That needs a good clean. I'm conscious of that horrible rattling noise though. So let's just try the tape actually while we're here. And he did say that he thinks the tape might be running a little bit slow. So what we'll do is we'll put a calibration tape in there, set it to 3 kilohertz, and we'll just see exactly what it is giving us. Okay, a quick simple test of this mech then, shall we? So fast forward seems to work. Rewind would if there were a tape in there, I think. I've got a calibration tape here anyway, so we'll be able to use that. Fast forward, rewind, play. There we go. So I've got 3 kilohertz here, and hopefully it won't be too annoying with the volume. Let's see. There we go, hang on. Because it's coming and going. So I've just got a little app here that I'm using just for today. And that's telling me, yeah, 2880, something like that. Let me just stop that horrible noise. Basically what this does is it's like a spectrogram really of, you can hear me, you can see me talking and picking up all the different frequencies, and I've just isolated the frequency that was coming out of there, and it was supposed to be 3000 hertz coming off that tape, which is calibrated, and it was reading on here at about 2880. So yeah, it's a few percent slow there, to say the least. Not massively out, to be honest with you. I've heard a lot worse, but we'll address that when we put the new belts on. Right, okay, so we'll unplug that, and the first job with this, I think, is going to be to very gingerly just start stripping it apart. So I'm going to start getting all these screws out. Fingers crossed we don't break that switch on the side. You would not believe A, how fragile it is, and B, how difficult it is to remove. Right, that's 14 screws out so far, and now I'm just going to be very, very careful. Very careful. That is proper sketchy. I've managed to get the tuner dial and the switch out from the other side of the case. So fingers crossed. Blimey, they're in tight. They are in very tight. So I've got the speaker here, and yeah, I'm just looking at that. It's properly tight. I'm just going to see if I can cut that loose to give me a bit of access. You can see the tension on that part just there. What we're going to have to do here, I think, is take off this one. I think that'll do me. Hopefully I won't have to do too much else, and I'll be able to film it kind of as it is. But this is, yeah, this is pretty grim, got to be honest. It's quite dirty inside, which you would expect. Overall though, not too bad. Just having a quick cursory check over this. What is nice is we can, at least once we've serviced the mech, we can clean the, so we can adjust the speed just there on the motor. That's great. So yeah, you've got your DC there, your mains in, your adapter in, you've got your bridge rectifier there with the 4 diodes and the smoothing caps just in there. So I'm going to try, I think, to undo some of these cables, just trying to get in here, give ourselves as much leeway as we can so that we can avoid risk damaging anything whilst we're in here. I'll explain what I'm trying to do here. Basically, I want to separate this part out if I can, because I want to service the mech, and I want to see if I can replace the aerial, and I think that's going to involve taking this whole board out of here as well. So we've got that one just there. We've got a multi-plug here. Blimey, that's tight. Might as well mark the faces as well while I'm here. That's assuming I can get these apart, of course. Right. Cool. Blimey. Gosh, these are tight. Crikey, man. So that gives us the radio board. Now we might not actually need to remove the radio board for this. I can see a screw at the base of the aerial just there. So we should be able to get all this out. You can move the whole board out by unscrewing these two screws here and then basically drifting the board across to the side, displacing the needle pointer and all of that. But actually, there we go, should be able to withdraw this. So there's the original aerial complete with the screw. And I actually took the liberty of buying a unit that I could use for spares if I need it to complete the video. So I have already got a decent aerial here with the correct tip on it. So what I'll do is I'll fit that just so it looks nicer, but I'll give Jack this one back, as his dad was the one that put that screw in there. So there we go. So it should just drift back in. Nice, good stuff. So I'm just going to give this a general clean, and I'll clean and lubricate this radio selector switch while I'm here. And I noticed that the FM was dragging a little bit, but I think that's because got a bit of dirt here. There we go. That's better already. Good. So I'm going to call this side sort of done. I'm going to give it a proper wipe over, get rid of the dust and the dirt and what have you, and see if I can start cleaning this handle up a little bit. So this half or quarter, whatever it is done on the inside. It's all clean and tidy in there now, much nicer. I've also cleaned the handle as well. Now I don't mind leaving some patina on there, like I say, probably on the outside, but I don't want too much paint on the handle because, you know, that's going to interfere with the nice sliding mechanism. Speaking of which, it wasn't closing properly, so as this particular side is screwed and locked in position, I'm assuming that the problem is going to be on the other half of the handle. So I'm going to take a look at that now, and also now is time to address that cassette deck. Right, I think the first thing I'm going to do is detach the speaker from that plastic over there. There we go. Right, that's one less thing to worry about. So what have we got then? Got a couple of little screws on the bottom for the mech, just in there. And there's a couple on the top just there. Hard to see how that's going to clear though, because the handle, or at least the speaker parts, are still in the way. So I think first up we've got to get the whole rails out. If you have a look here, we've got like sliding rails for the whole mechanism. So I think actually it's going to be better to take all of that off. I can also see just down here as well a multi-plug for the motor, which again is as stubborn as the other ones. So I'll cross that bridge in a minute, I think, when I get to it. First up then, let's see if we can just get these rails off. Well, that's 8 screws out. I'm still not convinced about all of this. Ah, okay, there we go. There we go. That's what was broken. So that, I think, is one of the mounting points for the handle, which is why it was not sliding properly. And if you noticed, it's got the screws already still in the post. It's rattled around inside the unit. That could have come from anywhere. Yeah. Oh no, I can see what it is now. It's a speaker. It's a speaker retaining. I thought a speaker came out easy. It's got a speaker retaining plate on there. Now, I can probably just glue this back in. My options at this stage are to use my donor piece, but well, it's quite a nice significant piece really. So I think what I'll do is I'll just glue this back in when I refit the speaker. I think I'll just glue this back in and then put some like super glue, and then I'll put some hot glue just to stop it from vibrating loose. I'm sure that'll be absolutely fine. Like I say, I could just replace it with a donor piece that's not broken, but being that it's quite a significant fascia panel, I don't want Jack to have too much back that wasn't from his dad's machine. So I think that's what I'll do. At least that solves that problem anyway, or that issue. All of these cables are attached. They run all the way underneath the board through there. So yeah, we're not going to be able to get them away. That's not really going to help us too much. So I think we're just going to have to work with what we've got. Right then, let's get these little screws out of the mech. And I'll put them in a separate pot. I always do that. I find it's a well handy tip, use an old yogurt pot or something like that. So these are the ones from the outer casing. These are the front speaker grill ones, and then we've got the little cassette ones just in there. It all needs a decent clean, but if I eject, let me just have a look. You normally have to eject the door before you do anything else, and part of this is going to have to pop away somehow, I would imagine. Looks like there's a seam there. Those switches are integrated and won't pull off. So, here we go. What's this? Yuck, I told you these things were horrible to work on, didn't I? Right, so they slide off there. Gosh, this is horrible. Everything is caught. You wouldn't believe there's so much tension on these cables. I'm trying desperately not to pull away. There we go. Right. Okie dokie. So what have we got then? I think we are literally just going to have to do this in situ. There's no sensible way of taking this thing apart. Right, yeah, so there's dust and junk falling out everywhere. It's absolutely filthy, but we can see how that works now. So we've got the main drive belt coming off of there. You can see it's quite deformed. In fact, if I take that off, you'll see a bit of a point where the pulley was. It was a little bit on the slack side anyway. So we'll get that replaced. There's also another one underneath. Transfer belt there. So there we are then. So we'll get some more belts sorted, and oh my days, you wouldn't believe how dirty this is inside. So I'll give this a nice clean as well. Rightio, so I've got some new belts. I'm going to try and get these on. And a quick wipe of the face plate, and then we can put this part back together again. I've got the hot glue gun warming up. I've got some black hot glue in there, and what I'll do is hot glue these speaker cables back into their little locating lug where they came from. They were glued in originally at the factory anyway. Clamp down the other speaker, and then we'll just put some hot glue in, and that'll be more than enough. It'll also act as a bit of a vibration damper as well, so I'm not too worried about that. But just while it is warming up, I've just cleaned up the casings a bit more on the inside, and the plan now is to start getting this to reassembly stage. So I'm going to screw these rails back in for the sliders, and we'll be halfway there, I think. And once we've got it to the situation where we can hear what's going on, we can adjust the motor speed, or at least make sure the tape even works for a start. That'd be useful. Anyway, like I say, just going to screw these rails back in. Rightio, so I've got the speaker in. I've decided to run some hot glue all the way around it. I've dispensed with that second one that was broken on the basis that because this thing, excuse the miming here, but as it slides back and forth and it's under a fair old load or shock, I don't want it coming loose and rattling around inside, because that'd be proper annoying. So instead, I've actually just put a bead of hot glue all the way around, just to keep it perfectly safe and secure. Right, also just real quick, I did put some alcohol and a bit of lubricant inside the volume and tone sliders as well. I forgot to mention that, but that's done. It was just kind of an instinctive thing while I was there. I forgot to film it. Right, so now for the tape speed, what we shall do is plug some power in, and we will eject that, get the calibration tape in. And does it work, actually, first and foremost? Good. Fast forward, rewind, lovely. Right, let's see what frequency this is putting out, if any. Where's the volume? Yeah, 2942. 2942. It's not far off, to be honest. I see no one's actually adjusted this before by the looks of it, because from what I can tell, I've got to find the right screwdriver, there's no damage to the actual potentiometer rubber. Right, okay, let's give this a go, see if we can tweak it a little bit. I just got 2999 from 3000 there, so very happy with that. That'll be perfect, just the job, it's all we need. Okay, that was fairly annoying with that high pitch 3 kHz pitch running, so I might just give you a quick précis here. Basically, I used a calibration tape of a known frequency of 3 kHz and listened to it on this app on the phone here, and got it to actually 2999, so it's pretty much exact, and that's going to be great. That's all we need. Perfectly good enough for a unit like this, so super happy that it's running, it's fast forwarding, it's rewinding, it's playing. Doesn't sound too bad. There's a bit of wow and flutter, but it's not the best mech in the world, so pretty pleased with that all in all. So what have we done? We've replaced the aerial, that's all cleaned up on that side. The cassette mech's got both new belts. I'm just going to, no, I'll put it together actually first before I clean the heads, because we can do that in situ. That'll be fine. Right, let's just get the whole thing back together then, give it a bit of a clean and a polish. And just tucking these cables away, there was a zip tie there before, keeping everything neat and tidy from the factory. Just stops everything getting wayward. So there is a zip tie there once again. The beauty about having a donor board as well is there was a fair bit of corrosion actually on one of these mounting plates that goes on the sliders. Now we could easily sort of dress that back as best we can, what have you, but I've got a perfectly clean one here on the donor machine, so just makes it nice and clean and tidy on the inside. Obviously we colour coded them, but the issue wasn't really identification, it's more we are very tied up in terms of free play on the cables. Hopefully we can make this work for us. I'm going to put a little drop of grease as well on the runners. Not a massive amount, but it wouldn't have been done in over 30 years, so no harm in putting a drop more on now. Now by far the trickiest part of this, and I'm not going to lie, it does get your heart racing a bit. It's going to be quite good fun and games getting this back together. It is now half an hour later and I cannot get this front cover on for all the tea in China, as they say. In theory it should be there, that switch is in, the tuning dial is through, the mounting plate claw thing is on there, the joining plate on the bottom is in, nothing's fouling anywhere. I just can't seem to get it to pass. It's a nightmare. Honestly, this, ladies and gents, is why I don't tend to work on things like this. You tend to find that they're designed to be pretty much put together by robots, precision placed first time, every time, and then that's it. Once you start messing with bits of plastic and whatever, you're in for a world of pain, and I still haven't done it yet, and I'm just desperately worried that I'm going to break this switch, so I've got to be super careful. But time is getting away from me. It's getting dark out there now, and I'd really like to finish this today, if I'm honest. It's I mean, on one hand I'm super delighted at this stage that I haven't broken it yet. On the other hand, once this thing pops down, this one just slides in, give it a wipe, it's done. But I'm that close to finishing, but that close to destroying it as well, so I'll check back in a little while. Finally managed to get it in there. Basically there's a little plastic sheath that was sort of holding the wiring in at the back, and I don't know why, but for whatever reason it would not clear the tuning capacitor on the radio board, and I had to shave just a couple of millimeters off it, and lo and behold, now it works. Happy days. Oh, and as I was recording that last section, I just noticed that there's another broken speaker mounting point there. So 2 of the 3 had actually broken off, and that was wedged under the transformer just there, which is why I hadn't noticed it before. And clearly where that was, that meant that the sliding mechanism was just catching it on the bottom of there. So that is why it wasn't closing quite properly, I think. So now all I've got to try and do is very gingerly thread the handle through there, lock that into place. There we go, and it does close properly now. So I'm just going to put the last few screws into the casing. Oh, blimey. Before I do, just make sure that there we go, battery ribbon is out. I'll also clean these battery contacts a bit, see if we can get it working on the batteries. Whew, getting there. To be honest, I'm just more relieved than anything that I haven't broken the function switch, because that I must have had that in and out probably, what, 10, 12 times just now, and bearing in mind that was the thing I didn't even want to do once earlier on. I think luck has been on our side today. I'm going to put a tiny little drop of silicone oil spray onto the handle. Right, time to give this a polish then. I'll be leaving some of the marks on, but we'll just give it a bit of a general deep clean, bit of a polish, and I'll see you on the other side for a reveal. Finally. So here it is then, the JVC RC-N5 radio cassette recorder. It belonged to a viewer, and in fact it was his late father's, so it had been around whilst he was decorating and what have you, and been a companion, I think since new, probably around 30 years ago, 35 years ago. It kind of worked, the radio sort of worked, as did the tape, but it needed some TLC. There were numerous issues with it. It was pretty covered in paint, the mechanism didn't close properly, it had a sticky mech on there, the belts were a bit wobbly, the tape speed was a bit slow, it didn't work on batteries, there was a broken aerial tip, and the volume slider was very scratchy, probably other stuff as well. Oh yeah, and the speaker was broken, which was one of the reasons it didn't close properly in the first place. So what have we done then? Well, basically just tried to refresh it as best we can, cleaned off a lot of the paint, left a bit of a patina there just to remind Jack about his dad, and we've cleaned it up though pretty nicely, so it looks pretty cool again. We've got the worst of the paint off, especially that was affecting the handle from sliding properly, and also greased the handle a little bit as well. It didn't close properly, and that was because of some broken studs that mounted the speaker, so we've removed those. It was actually better to just hot glue the new speaker in pretty much all the way around, so that's sorted and won't vibrate loose again. Clean the battery contacts so it works off batteries. We've serviced the mech, cleaned the tape path, replaced both of the belts, replaced the aerial with one from the correct unit, and we'll be giving Jack his old one back with the screw in it just to remind him of his dad. But yeah, there it is. Hopefully he'll be pleased with it. Let's have a quick listen. I'll just turn the lights off so we can get a bit of FM.
That's for you, okay?
Oh, thank you so much, Pandora. Thank you very much.
You're so welcome. Good luck for tomorrow.
Thank you. Take care. Bye.
Well, look, every single...
For search and rescue teams working through the night in the dark and cold.
£1,000 January jackpot, which news right out your workday on all participating
product sites, advertising both information relief and an immune boost. Here.
Oyster came to play the concerto for me. My little cottage was full of people. It was summer and the door to the porch was open.
So you can hear that the radio was working really nicely as well. And that's running off the batteries, which is cool. So I'm going to try and go to a bit more of a wide angle now, because we've now got to do the actual party trick of this unit. And there it is, the JVC RC-N5. So just pop a tape in real quick. And fast forward, rewind, and play. In fact, what I'll do is get into the end of the song just there, so we'll just rewind it a bit more, and we'll just have a quick listen to the volume control as well. There we go, nice and smooth. No crackle on that at all. Perfect. And as we've now finished with the tape, it's closed back up beautifully. So there it is, the JVC RC-N5. Hope you enjoyed that, Jack. Keep this video for posterity. The rest of you guys, thanks ever so much for watching. I've got loads of boombox, Walkmans, vintage electronic games, 8-track videos. So please check out my back catalogue. Consider subscribing if you haven't already. Please like and share the video. Stay safe. I'll see you soon. All the best for now. Bye bye.